What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Sports Degenerate Podcast. Today we got another Start of the Week episode for Week 11. For the people that are new, I give you guys one player at each position that I think will outperform the ranking and help you win. And none of these players are must-start players. Last week was a rough week. We only went 1 for 4. My bad, guys. If you tailed the suggestions last week, you probably lost. I gave you guys Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and he did basically nothing. I even started him in a couple of leagues, and I lost my leagues. That was a bad call. The only good call I gave you guys was Tyrone Tracy. He had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. I gave you guys DJ Moore as the start of the week, and he also did nothing. And I gave you guys Hunter Henry as the tight end, and he did nothing. So bad week last week, 1 for 4. Let's bounce back and give you guys some good advice for week 11. So let's start with quarterback. For this position, I picked a player ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. I'm going to go with Drake May as the week 11 quarterback start of the week. He's been a solid fantasy quarterback this season. In his 5 starts, he's averaging over 18 points per game, and he has 2 games with 25 or more points. Pretty good. He also gives you a safe floor with his rushing yards as well. He's averaging 44 rushing yards per game this season, which is great. That's great for his floor. Now he's playing the Rams, and the Rams secondary has been really shaky this season. They have allowed over 240 passing yards per game and are bottom 10 in the NFL in allowing passing touchdowns. And when you go to fantasy, the Rams are allowing over 19 points per game this season. So I think Drake May has a good week this week. Next, let's hop over to running back. For this position, I also picked a player ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. Running back start of the week for week 11, David Montgomery. He's been a solid fantasy running back week in and week out. He's averaging over 15 points per game. He has one of the best matchups this week. The Jaguars allow the 3rd most fantasy points per game this season at 27 points per game. And yes, him and Jahmyr Gibbs do split carries, but this is why I like Montgomery. The Lions are probably going to destroy the Jaguars. The spread is at like 13.5 or 14 in favor of the Lions. So I think the Lions are going to be up by a lot. And when they're up by a lot, that's when they feed Montgomery. So I think Montgomery gets a ton of volume. He might even score like 2 touchdowns in this game. I think he has a solid week. Let's go over to wide receiver. For this position, I picked a player ranked outside the top 24 on Fantasy Pros. Wide receiver start of the week for week 11, Quentin Johnston. So the Chargers are my favorite team. I watch them every week, so I kind of know what they're good at, what they're not, and I am a pessimistic fan. I am not a homer. But Johnston has been pretty good this year. He had a rough rookie year, we all know that, but he's averaging over 10 points per game this season. And this Chargers offense has actually looked really good lately. Herbert is playing at an elite level right now. This week, the Chargers play the Bengals, who are bottom 10 in receiving yards allowed per game and are allowing over 30 points per game to wide receivers this season. And Johnston has been Herbert's favorite target in the red zone. He has scored 5 touchdowns in his 7 games this season, which is great. We love that. And the main reason I like this, it's a Sunday night game, Bengals Chargers. I think the Bengals are going to put up points, and we've seen that Herbert has played an elite level, and Herbert can put up points. I expect a shootout, and I think that's going to benefit Johnston. And then let's end it off with tight end. For this position, I also picked a player ranked outside the top 12. Tight end, start of the week for week 11, Pat Freiermuth. So this is just a matchup thing. Usually with tight end starts of the week, I like matchups because we all know tight end is a gross position in fantasy. But the Steelers are playing the Ravens, and the Ravens have allowed the 3rd most receiving yards per game to tight ends this season. They are allowing 68 yards per game, which is great. We love that in a tight end. And we know the Ravens are going to score the ball. The Steelers defense is good, but this Ravens offense looks unstoppable. But we've seen with Russell Wilson as the quarterback, the Steelers have been putting up points. They put up 28 points last week against the Commanders. So I think Russell Wilson throws the ball a lot, and him throwing to Freiermuth is a perfect way to beat this Ravens defense. So I think Freiermuth has a solid game in Week 11. So pretty quick episode. Those are the starts of the week for Week 11. Let's try to have a way better week than we did last week, guys. Let's try to go 4 for 4. Like always, if you guys have any fantasy questions, feel free to comment on the podcast, comment on YouTube, or DM me on social media. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love all of you.